Okay, so personal branding. Maybe we start off with what is actually a personal brand. And you know, branding comes from these poor poor cows that were branded. But you could say that a personal brand is understood as a widely recognized and largely uniform perception of an individual based on their experience, their expertise, and achievements within a community. That's one way how you can actually define a personal brand. So that means that a lot of people think of you that have the uniform, the same perception, that you know about something in specific because of all the experience that you gathered and things that you made happen within a community. Okay, and this is actually nothing new. So branding, or even personal branding, has been around for hundreds of years. When, for instance, when we look at Winston Churchill did not have a job, a government job, between 29 and 23. So he had been in government before that. But he made sure that the public did not forget about him during the time when he was not in government. And that's how, and then what he did was he wrote articles, for instance, in the Evening Standard and then the Daily Telegraph, and he wrote books and a biography in 4 books, in 4 volumes about his family. So there would always be something coming out. And that's a new content coming out that is related to him. So like that, people didn't forget about him. And that's pretty much the same thing currently in social media. Is you also put content out over time and people always get to see you again and again and kind of build up relationships with you. And the question now is, how do you actually build up a personal brand? And this guy, his name is Gary Vaynerchuk. He's an American entrepreneur, and he's pretty much the godfather of social media branding in the States. And he puts out more than 200 pieces of content every day, and he has got a team of 20 people who actually make content for him because he realized he can't do it by himself. But if you're interested in that, check him out. He does a lot of good stuff. And what he says is actually that building a personal brand is pretty easy. You put out content and you're patient. So whatever content it is, people will relate to that. But obviously that sounds a bit easy. So when we look now at Elizabeth and at Jacob, then the question is, okay, can they just use their phones and put out a lot of content? That's maybe a bit too fast. But what is it what you can do as a first step? And that's the same thing that I talked about in the beginning, and that is like, what is your why? Where do you want to contribute? Once you've realized that, then you know what you want to talk about. And then the next question that you have to decide on is, how much time and how much effort are you willing to invest? And it's okay to say, I invest 1% of my time, or it's also okay to invest 10% maybe of your time, or you invest time in the evening, like when you lay in bed and you put out you comment on some stuff on Twitter. That's also time that you invest. But it's very important to be very clear of what you are willing to invest and what works and fits with your job as well. Because it's not great if you have high expectations, you want to build up a following of 5,000 or 10,000 people on TikTok, and then you realize, oh, I'm not putting in the work, or I'm not putting enough content out. So if you want to be an exception, you better act like an exception. Yeah. So your ambitions really need to be matched with your work. So if you have high ambitions, you got to work a lot on that. If you don't have high ambitions, you don't have to work a lot on that. That is it is as simple as it sounds, but I just want to call on you to make a very deliberate and open and self-conscious decision on that, how much you're willing to invest. And then obviously you have to decide, do you want to build your own reach online? Do you want to build your own channels online? Or do you want to take advantage of the reach of others? Like ask newspapers if they want to have an interview with you, or if you can write something. And what's crazy is that many of us feel a bit like it's not that easy to ask. But once you ask people will say yes sometimes, because we are clever people. We work at reputational universities. So it's be aware that the worst thing that can happen is a no. And if you ask 20 people and 20 research, if 20 papers of newspapers, one of them will say, oh, that's interesting. So just be ready to get a lot of no's, but the 20th or the 30th, you will get a yes. And then you will get the opportunity to put something out, and they will give you the attention that you want to. So once you have decided if you want to go out, if you want to build your own reach, or if you want to take advantage of the other reach, it's just a matter of really deciding what you want to do and how many channels you actually want to cater to. And there's a lot of channels, but that comes back to the decision on how well, how you feel comfortable with what kind of content you want to put out. If you're good at writing, you should start a blog, or you should post, you should blog within Instagram, for instance. So it's just that you should make a conscious decision. For instance, I post on Twitter, I post on LinkedIn, I have a podcast, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, so that's the ones that I like, and I put content out. And I'm not on Instagram. I have Instagram account, but I don't use it for scientific research, communication. I don't use TikTok. I don't use Snapchat, and that's okay too. Just be aware what you do. And then the approach that you implement is the stuff that we talk here. The 4 general principles is that you just apply them. Yeah. So, and like that, you build a personal brand. And now, oh, by the way, I put this dog in there because it's really important to not be a diva. If someone comments on you and you don't comment back, then you're a diva. And if you're a diva, no one will be really happy to engage with you. So this is now the last part of the personal branding. And maybe some of you know this book. It's called The Big 5 for Life. It's from Steckelcy, I think is his last name. And it's pretty much a motivational book. And I don't want to talk about that book, but I'm going to give you the big 5 for social media life right now. So what are the things that I would like you to remember from this talk specifically? These are 5 things, and then we're done. So the first thing is start early. A lot of people, and specifically researchers, come to me and say, yes, I'll start putting stuff out when I have some results. But if you do that, then you don't build up a following all over the years while you're doing the research. So what you can do, what you should do is you start from the beginning on, and you just say what you are about. What's your manifesto? You haven't done very much, but this is what I want to. This is the question that I want to work on. This is the methods I do. This is the team that I work with. This is the place that pays me. This is the conference that I go to. This is the person that I talk to in order to learn about my topics. All that stuff. That's all valuable content. That's all Instagram gold. You can all use that for your communication. So start early. Don't start when your project is done, because when your project is done, you have 3 followers on Twitter that follow you and might read it. But if you start from the beginning on, you might have 300 that might listen to your stuff. And then when you don't know what to put out, that's the second one, and you don't have content, you'll have a hard time creating, just think of it as documenting. And I think I talked to Jakob and Elizabeth about this before. And I think that's a tenet of social media communication in general, is that it doesn't need to be great content. It just needs to be authentic. It needs to be you. And if you document your way, then people will start building up relationships with you. The third thing is be practical. There's so many web pages or articles, and it's a lot of headline readings. Oh, you have to do this, you have to do this. Yeah, but you don't know what size a Twitter post is, or what colors work well, or what type of content you will get the most attention from. No one knows that. That's you. So when you really want to be good at social media, you got to be practical. And the good thing is, if you put out crappy content in the beginning, it's great because no one will see it anyways. So it's just about getting better over time. And if you start creating and if you start documenting, you learn so much. It's just that you have to get started and get yourself out there, but by being practical. The fourth point is that many of us are not sometimes in the beginning, we're not very happy with the content we really put out, or the format, or the color, or the way how I look, or whatever. And it's really important to just get over that and post it. And because it can take so much time to create the perfect post, but the perfect post does not exist. And when we remember on the survey that Jacob sent me, and what I showed you in the beginning is how can we make efficient use of time, is really to apply the Pareto rule of 80-20, of 20-80. Use 20% of the time, make it good, Don't make it perfect. Don't think that it should be everything perfect. Make it good. Good is okay. Good is fine. And then you post it. And the last one, and that's, I think, is also key, is this one. And that's 1 is better than 0. When you start communicating online, there will be hardly anyone who's watching you. But there will be one person that's watching you. And this person, if you engage with that person, will tell another person. And that person will tell another person. So if you post something and you don't get a lot of attention, then just realize that that's the way it is. And a little bit of attention is still more attention than no attention. Okay? So it's okay. No one has attention in the beginning. It's something that builds up over time. And just appreciate, I think it's just a good idea to appreciate the little attention that you get and use that as a stepping ground for further endeavors in the social media area. Yeah, that's it from me, everyone. If you want to reach out to me, then I appreciate that. If not, that's fine too. I'm online on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, so let me know. I'm very happy to just have a call. I don't need any money. I'm really in the game because I think there's so much knowledge in research organizations that does not go out. And I think social media is a great opportunity to really make use of that. So if you have any questions, let me know. And I'll stop with this. That's the last slide. And it's on the left side, you see, these are 3 important things that I think are really important. In general, is you only regret the things you don't do in the end of life. And you only have one life. So do the right thing and put in the fucking work. So, and that's it from me today. Thank you.